That Don't Sound Right is a podcast about talking the way we did before the internet, when you could not prove anyone right or wrong.
All the expertise was contained in the people involved with the conversation. I'm Peter.
I'm Cecil, and I hope you enjoy our conversations. And as you listen, if you find yourself silently saying, "That don't sound right," send us a comment. You're one of us. Hey, this is Cecil, and just want to remind everyone, this is the second part this week of a two-part series. Normally we have a little clip from the show right now, but I just want to remind everyone that you may want to go back and listen to episode 82, Missed It by a Mile, before you listen to this week's episode. And for all the new listeners, welcome, and you put us over some of our benchmarks last week. We set some records, so thank you and welcome to the show, and we hope you enjoy this week.
Welcome back to another episode of That Don't Sound Right, a podcast about talking. We're your co-hosts, Peter Billman.
I'm Cecil Davis.
And we're just trying to have a conversation. Usually we'll say something that the other person just doesn't think sounds right, or you might not think it sounds right. But we resist the temptation to Google it or to fact check it. We just try to figure out what we're saying, if it's true, if it makes sense. Last week, if you heard, we were talking about ultra marathons. I don't think that makes any sense. We talked about reasons why it might make sense. And again, we have listener number one, Scott. Welcome back to the studio.
Pleasure to be here again.
We want to jump right back into the story from last week.
Yes.
If you recall, Cecil goes to this thing called the Country Mile, where he's attempting to run 33 laps, 3 miles each, to do 100 miles.
Right, to get a silver belt buckle.
A silver belt buckle. I didn't think this sounded like a legitimate thing, especially because it's being run on April 1st.
Right.
But it was a legitimate thing.
Yes. And so Scott, you've now heard, I've started telling you this story at church, though.
Yeah.
And you had to go take care of someone. I don't know what your priorities are.
Apparently they're misplaced, yes.
But you've now heard the end of the story, not the full end of the story.
Yes, yeah. I had to wait from Sunday that week till
So it's about a week
podcast.
a week and a half.
And it's a long wait. And I was on pins and needles the whole time, and now I've gotten a little bit more of it, but I still don't know how it is.
So we cut the podcast off last week because we went longer in that podcast than we've gone in any other podcast.
Yes, people have done their commutes.
Yeah.
People are done walking the dog. We just had to cut it off.
They're sitting in the driveway, waiting for it to end so they can go in the house and eat dinner.
Yeah, NPR calls it the driveway moment.
Yep.
So, all right. So where we are is I have run 24 hours of the Country Mile, a legitimate race in South Carolina. Just after midnight on April 1st, I have won the Rookie Lap Leader Award. And I have now come home, and it is Wednesday. I still believe that I am the rookie lap leader, and I come over to the Campbell City Studios to record an episode.
That's right. So, and before Cecil went on the marathon, as we were talking on the phone, I said, Cecil, this could be an episode. It just don't sound right to go run anything more in a marathon.
Talk about an ultra. You were just saying
so go talk to people. Talk to people about their experience.
Oh, that's right.
Right. I want you to talk to people about running ultras, why they do it, what's going through their head. We've got listener number one, Scott. We talked to about his experience last week in his running ultra marathons.
And I did that. So you organically, without knowing anything about the trail.
Yes, I know. It was organic.
And so I actually talked to people during the race, gathering stories, which we haven't even told at this point, for the podcast.
That's right. And so I said, Cecil, let's go ahead and record this episode, or at least pieces of it. This was right before Easter, but I said, I've got this guy on the phone that I've been talking to, a guy named Bill Donaldson, who's the organizer, or the part of the organizers of one of the organizers of the Country Mile. Because we're going to do this episode, I needed to talk to the organizer to get his feedback on what's going on about the Country Mile and why is he doing it.
And I completely believe you.
Correct.
Yeah, so he convinces me now that while I was running the race, has Googled the race and found out who the race organizer is and the contact.
Bill Donaldson and I had been trading emails, and we finally had set up a time, and it was this particular evening, Thursday evening before Easter, which maybe we could talk.
Okay. So Peter tells me that as I'm coming in, and I was like, oh, we're going to talk to the race guy for the country mile tonight. He's like, yeah. I was like, oh, that's great. Right. And so I'm still
so anything going through your mind now?
Well, now I'm thinking, now I can say, hey, I'm the guy who won the rookie lap leader.
You'll remember me.
You'll remember me. Yeah. Which also should have clued me in, because when you get him on the phone, I say, hey, me and some of my brother and my cousins, we ran your race. And he doesn't really react.
He doesn't. Because he's encountered hundreds of people running that race, Cecil. You realize
So I say it again, thinking that he obviously has not heard what I said. And I was like, and I say that we ran the race. And really, I get no reaction from this guy that we're interviewing.
Unfortunately, in our excitement to get this going on, Cecil doesn't hit record on our podcast machine over here. So I've got him on my speakerphone, hoping his voice, Bill Donaldson's voice, will come through, we'll record it, and we'll be able to capture Bill's great, what it turns out to be, acting ability.
Yeah. So at this point in it, now again, if y'all aren't pulling all these stories together, I have been pranked. This is April Fool's joke. There is no rookie lap leader, but I have been awarded that, and I still think that I am that. I'm still fully invested in this. And I think that we're talking to the race leader. Mm-hmm. And now you look across the Camel City studios and you say, will you say that you're the rookie lap leader? And as soon as you say that...
Well, what happens is, so first thing, Bill Donaldson agrees that, hey, he'll promote our podcast. And he says, Peter, can you kind of give us the hook for your podcast? Yeah. I said, yeah. So I go through the spiel. Yeah. Oh, this is a podcast about talking.
You did a great job.
Talking away. So I go through our spiel. And
you should have called the brand ambassador in for that one.
Well,
yeah, I understand.
Yeah. This was very nerve-wracking on my part. I did not want to screw this up. So anyway, I do the hook. And so Bill Donaldson turns to Cecil and said, he says, that's great. And then Bill Donaldson turns to Cecil and says what?
He says, will you say you're the rookie lap leader? And as soon as he asked me that question, I was like, wait a minute. Because that's the same setup for this other practical joke that Brian had played on me. And I was like, wait. And at this point, I know something's up. In fact, I even say, this is no joy.
Yeah, that's right. You look straight at me.
I was like,
what's going on here?
Yeah. I was like,
this sounds awfully familiar.
Yeah. I was like, this is not April 1st anymore. So I was like, Brian, if you're on the phone, this is April 4th or whatever. It's, we are below the flight deck. This is not happening. So I haven't put it all together yet.
So Brian calls the brother. Mm-hmm. He calls, and we get him on the line. And then there's this discussion about, is this a legitimate April 1st joke? And then Brian gently points out to Cecil, when did you get your lanyard?
Yeah. It was just after midnight. So this was the big reveal. Man.
And Bill Donaldson was Jerry, the neighbor.
Was with the neighbor. And they had I had David on the phone. My cousin was on the phone. But they were trying to get me recorded.
Who's Jerry?
The neighbor, Cecil's brother's neighbor is Jerry.
He's playing the
role of Bill Donaldson, the race organizer.
Got it.
Yeah. But, I was not going to get caught twice saying, getting them to have me record something on the air.
The official line was, hey, I'm Cecil Davis, and I'm the rookie lap leader of the country mile. That don't sound right.
But he had warned you that as soon as you said that, or whoever said that.
Yeah, Brian knew exactly that. As soon as Cecil heard that, or even started uttering the words, all the red flags were coming up. And the reveal had happened. Yeah. And he called it perfectly.
Yeah.
So Jerry was talking, and your brother was there with him, I assume. Yeah. Right. Okay.
So now I finally get all the pieces together. And it's really a beautiful joke in its simplicity. I mean, and so, one, I had every opportunity in the world to get clued in.
So many times.
Secondly, things happened like that he doesn't even know about. Like, you saying that I need to interview people during the race.
Yeah, that was just organic.
Right, which was just organic. And so I had done that. I talked to people as I was walking and running, and so I had these stories in my head I thought we could tell.
Which we still will.
We still can, yeah. Absolutely.
We still will.
You'll find a lot of ultra runners will be instant converts if you start talking about their sport. They'll leave as soon as you go on to something else. But yeah, they're fickle.
Well, like you would, as you were walking, people would want to know where you're from, how many ultras you had done, what your strategy was, and after a while, I think you fall into two camps. Either you don't want anybody to talk to you, or you want everybody to talk to you. Yeah, just because you're either so far into your mental game that you're just like, please leave me alone. Or the other thing is like, please keep talking to me so I won't think about the pain.
What was your
well, after 24 hours, I was still like chatty Cathy.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So people were probably wishing I would
get him out of here.
But also, I was going to be there before Brian.
Right.
Which would have complicated things because there was no race packet. At all.
No race packet at all.
There was no race packet at all.
My
you just
gracious.
picked your chip up. And so had I gotten there, there was no race packet.
So are race packets the common things on races?
Race packets are common things.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But in this one, there's no race packet. You just pick your number up, you pick when I called him and said, pick up my race packet, and he knew I was going to get there after him, he knew then he'd be able to slide this.
He must have had a plan B for the paper.
Well, he wasn't sure how that was going to work out.
Okay.
And so he got there and got a Glad Ziploc bag and just got a bunch of stickers and stuff. And they had socks and jammed it all in the bag. Jammed the thing in there. When I got there, he just handed it to me, which to me felt very natural.
And it had your number on it.
Right, had my number in it, my chip, and everything. So that was the first thing that had to fall his way. Is that, and then I had 6 hours to think about this.
Oh yeah.
Never clear. And all the people I asked with the race, nobody knew about it. No red flags are going off.
But you didn't care. You were going to win this thing.
Right. I was so far bought into that I was going to win it that it had me completely out of my game. So I'm just saying it was beautiful in its simplicity. It was well done. I will have to build a fake city to get him back.
Well, there's another thing that had to happen. They had to get the lanyard into the barn for you to cross at the right time.
Right. So that's when we talked about last time. Ray, whose feet were pretty hurt by this time, had to run ahead with the lanyard.
And it was dark. You just didn't notice.
It was dark. I didn't notice. Well, we were all kind of spaced out a little bit, and so he ran ahead with it, and he's the real hero in this because he gets it back. And so when I come in there, it's sitting there.
So he talks to one of the race organizers and said, "Hey, when number 96 comes in."
Yep.
We're playing a joke. Keep it to yourself.
Right.
Nice.
Yep. And then just as people start clapping, just random people are in there think something's happening. They just start clapping.
It's midnight.
It's midnight.
Ultra runners are very supportive of one another.
It's funny you bring that up. I thought like triathlons were very supportive.
Yeah.
It's nothing like ultras. Man, everybody is there for your benefit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool stories I've experienced. Just people who are, are you familiar with the pacers on these 100-mile races?
I've heard of that.
Yeah. That is the
I'm not. Tell
a lot of races have like the big 50, 100 milers. They'll usually have a rule after mile 40 or mile 50 or mile 60, you can have a pacer.
Okay.
So imagine getting your friend to run the last 50 miles of a race with you to keep you focused, to keep you eating and drinking when you need to eat, to keep you on pace, to do it all mostly at night, and to not even get a medal. There's no recognition, no name in the book.
The pacers are there also, like in those 9 hours, to keep you from like wandering out into the woods because you get. Some people get a little loopy.
Yeah, some people do.
Yeah.
Especially the second night.
Yeah.
If you kept going.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah. And so I have heard of pacers, and especially at night, they're just there to kind of keep you from getting lost.
Nah.
And that happened. Like one time, I won't get too graphic about this, but there was I went off to take a break while I was still out on the course, and like several people and I saw this happen multiple times. They're like, "Are you okay? Do you need help?" Do you know where you're going?
Why are you off?
Why are you off? Yeah, and so like if people would stop to stretch, and everybody that went by, are you okay? Do you need help? So it was people were looking out for each other.
Yeah,
absolutely. So so there it is. No rookie lap leader.
So Cecil, any words of wisdom?
Words of wisdom, man, are to always keep your guard up. I mean, when you know the day, it's like the Bible, man. I knew the day and the hour. Keep your wicks trimmed, your lamp full of oil, man.
Be on guard from midnight on.
Well, and that's, like Brian and I don't even accept calls from each other on April 1st. Like, I don't pick up my phone. He doesn't pick up his phone. I mean, we basically lock ourselves in a skiff for 24 hours and
hope for the best.
And just hope for the best.
So, do most April 1st pass then without a practical joke?
We will
being
wait
played?
decades to do this.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, like everything has to fall in line. So, if like the one where I got him when he had shingles, like that just fell in my lap. And he had, he was in pain. Didn't I tell you that one on the air? I think I did. I know it sounds terrible.
I'm
just
not
that little bit of detail.
It does sound like you're kicking somebody when they're down.
Yeah, it does sound like I was kicking when they're down. But yeah, we'll wait. If I have to wait until I'm on my deathbed, I'll do it. It was actually kind of therapeutic for me because I had found myself over the years. I felt like I had gotten just kind of consumed with other things in life. And so this flipped some switches back on for me. I was like, oh, wait a minute. I need to start scheming.
This getting pranked.
Yeah. The practical joke was actually kind of therapeutic for me. It kind of flipped some switches back on for me that I think had been in the down position.
All right. So let me ask you a question. You've run other races, haven't you? Like, half marathons, 5Ks, whatever. Yeah. Do you have any medals that you won?
Yeah.
Do you have your lanyard with those hanging up your rookie?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's the first thing I did. So I went downstairs. I hung it up. I was like, yeah, absolutely.
Good. Yeah. Leave it there.
Yeah. Well, we're planning. It was funny because after the race, within 24 hours after the race ended, we had all signed back up for next year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So if either one of you want to join us,
there's a rule amongst runners that you should never make a race decision within 48 hours after, or maybe 72 hours after finishing.
Yeah. Nice. So Peter's showing Scott the official
country
rookie lap leader.
He had to copy and paste and everything.
Oh, there's a lot of work on this.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. It was just enough detail that it hooked me, but not enough that it made me suspicious.
Yeah.
It was well done, beautifully crafted. My hat is off. And
so if he had gotten the race director to say something, to be ready for your question,
right,
and to say, would that have been violating the rule if it happened on the 31st of March?
No, that was all set up at that point. And so really the hammer didn't fall until I accepted the award on the first.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can do all the setup you want prior. So I could start setting up now for whatever I plan to do in the future.
Oh, I'm sure you are.
Yeah.
I'm sure this is part of it.
This podcast, so Brian is like, every time I hear that you and Peter are together, I get a little suspicious now.
Peter, were you in on it before the race in any way?
That's an important piece of data.
Okay.
And the answer is no.
Okay.
Because if you're in part of the setup or part of the prank, you're on Cecil's list.
See.
And so I fear that list, and so I'm not on it. And actually, his daughter and my daughter are not on it, even though
they were
not part of the setup. They're part of the reveal.
Okay,
we're all part of the reveal. So he's not going after us. But you have some family members that refuse
to participate. Right? Yeah, like Christy will not participate. Ella basically asked for an signed affidavit that said, look, is the prank over? And if it is, then I will help you get this phone number. But otherwise, I am not participating. She really grilled him about it. So, yeah, Christy actually, for 1 year, said he needed something, and she was like, she flatly refused.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
You get it yourself.
You get it yourself. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So, there were some other stories that came out of the ultra, where just you would hear people. The funniest thing to me was listening as I was walking, hearing other people's conversations.
Yeah.
And just you just overhear like these parts of it. Like one guy was recounting all of his divorces to the guy that was walking with him. And he's like, the first one broke my heart. He said the second one was a mistake. And he recounted his whole marital history. And I happened to be
just
close enough.
Do you think this was a stranger?
What's that?
Was it a stranger he was talking to?
I think they were friends.
Okay.
I think they were friends. But yeah, he was just going back through all of his marriages. But that's what you kind of come up on these conversations of in kind of the middle of it, and then you'd catch like part of it and you would go on.
Yeah. So. One thing about having running groups, it doesn't have to be ultra running either. There's, if you do long runs with people, you learn a lot about them over the course of, the years. And because you have to talk just to,
Is there a code on which you don't talk about?
We have a code that things happen on the road, stay on the road.
Okay, all right. So this is kind of like confession booth type of deal?
Sort of, yeah.
All right.
But, I don't know how widespread and that is. But generally, it's just the details of life you don't necessarily take time to get into with other people. Yeah, that's most of it.
Yeah, and, you're tired. And
there is a case where there was a conversation taking place that I so did not want to hear that it sped me up and I got away from it.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
I had one of those too. Where I was like, I can't hear any more of this conversation.
Yep.
It actually prompted me to run.
I actually would wish that those people were behind me in a race because I would have really done well.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I had one of those too where I was like, I can't listen to this anymore. So, I can't remember if it was one of my cousins or somebody that I was just walking next to, but they were asking me something. I said, well, it's kind of a long story. And they said, well, we have 48 hours. I was like, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So, we already did words of wisdom for tonight. So since we went so far afield, the last one, we'll wrap this one up for tonight. So, Brian, if you're listening, well done. My hat is off. I hope your guard is up. But it was well done.
Very well done.
Yep, I'm impressed.
Yep. All right, well, it doesn't sound right, but you've come to the end of another That Don't Sound Right.
Hey, before we close, we want to thank everyone for listening. I do want to give a special thanks to Brian for including me in on this reveal. I feel honored to be part of this legacy of practical jokes. But I am thankful that I wasn't part of the practical joke. But if this is your first time and enjoyed listening to the conversation, would you consider hitting the subscribe button or the check mark on Apple Podcasts? Also consider giving us a rating or leave us a review. And lastly, if you're looking for that perfect Mother's Day gift, we have some pretty nice merchandise with our logo on it. Because maybe you've said something to your mother, and it made her want to say, that don't sound right.
That's a good point. This is the perfect Mother's Day gift.
Yes. Your mother has definitely heard something out of your mouth that says, that don't sound right.
Yeah. Well, That Don't Sound Right is a production of TDSR Podcasts in conjunction with Camel City Studios. I am your host and sound engineer, Cecil. Your other host is Peter, and he does all of our web design. Emily is our graphic designer. Giorgio tests our merchandise. Brent is our brand ambassador. And as always, and in studio tonight, listener number one is Scott. So until next week, keep talking.
And stay curious.